We are going to start today's first panel discussion of this conference on global textile trends, navigating regulations, sustainability, and market demands. Please put your hands together for the moderator of this panel discussion, Mr. Mujeebullah Khan.
Fashion has had to constantly evolve. But the industry radically changed in the 1990s when brands like Zara, H&M, and Topshop led the way with what we now know as fast fashion. They mastered the process of taking expensive clothes that were on the catwalk and mass-producing them in as little as 3 weeks. Fashion had never been this cheap and accessible before.
And here's my ear,
Then, at the turn of the century, online-only giants like ASOS and Boohoo took this model to the next level, shortening production times to as little as a week. Industry experts call these online-only brands ultra-fast fashion. And now, we're in a new era, real-time retail. Companies disrupting the status quo produce clothes in as little as 3 days. And this era's leader, well, it's a Chinese company called Shein.
Shein launches around 3,000 to 4,000 new female apparel products every day. So it is a very huge amount. And the product is at pretty low price, ranging from $2 USD to $30.
It is very fast, and the products are updated much more frequently and at a higher volume than any other fast fashion brand.
In April 2022, it was reported that fashion startup was worth $100 billion, which would make it more valuable than H&M and Zara combined.
Guys, I placed a $500 Shein order, and it came in the mail.
Y'all, the Shein package that I was waiting for, guys, so let's open it.
So, let's dig. How did Shein beat these fast fashion outlets at their own game? Shein is a very secretive company and shares little publicly about its origins. And as I learned from my reporting, it was pretty much impossible to connect with a spokesperson for the company.
I still heard some noise on your end, Baho.
We did find 2 consultants who had studied the company closely for years. Here's what we learned.
The CEO and founder has only been seen a couple times, and yeah, it really keeps an air of mystery.
This mysterious CEO is Chris Xu, a former digital marketer experienced in search engine optimization, or SEO. Even though Shein states it was founded in 2012, several sources say its origin story actually began in 2008 in Eastern China. That's when Xu and his business partners founded Dianwei, an e-commerce business that reportedly sold everything from knockoff goods to wedding dresses. It was here that Xu seemingly refined the business model that would eventually launch Shein to success. In 2011, Xu and his partners parted ways, and the domain that would become Shein was registered. Investment began to pour in, and so did sales. At the same time, the world was being transformed by a 5-ounce device, the iPhone.
Apple's rivals are rushing their own versions of this kind of product out into the stores.
And China's growing middle class played a huge role in the smartphone revolution that followed.
All of a sudden, everybody is getting smartphones, and so the majority of Chinese kind of skipped the computer phase, and the introduction to the digital world was really through the smartphone.
Between 2009 and 2012, the number of smartphones shipped to China grew from 13 million to nearly 200 million, a more than 1,400% rise. China overtook the US to become the world's largest smartphone market. This phenomenon fueled the rise of e-commerce platforms in the country such as Alibaba, JD.com, and of course, Shein. But unlike most of China's e-commerce giants, Shein wasn't interested in Chinese customers.
Shein's focus is entirely on the outside world. However, a lot of the marketing tactics that Shein uses are inspired by and very similar to Chinese fashion brands that are operating in the country, and also Chinese e-commerce sites that are operating in the country. And so if Shein were to target just the Chinese audiences, it's actually a much more saturated market, and you wouldn't be able to compete in terms of speed and price like how it does compete in the West.
Shein's Chinese roots gave it another advantage too, a rich understanding of data and how to use it. As a mobile-first country with lax privacy laws and the largest population in the world, collecting user information was easy. This creates a deeper.
Okay, in the interest of time, I think that we're already an hour late and I don't want my panelists to be already late. So I just wanted to show this to the audience to create, my preamble that there is simultaneously something happening which is not really looking after sustainability but this is a reality. Although I will come back to my panel discussion where I'm not allowed to ask questions. Let's come back to the real discussion. So my question to Dr. Nabeel is that because governments worldwide are enforcing sustainability regulations, traceability, transparency, how do you see this happening in Pakistan at the government level?
Thank you very much. All the directives and all the legislations coming up, yes, that is a challenge, and it's just not across the textiles, across all the other sectors as well. So government is committed, and there are very fast things moving, like in terms of policies, like we are working on a chemical management policy, we are working on textile policy, which is, I think, will be shared up with the stakeholders for 2025 until 30. Other than that, the National Compliance Center, which has been built up, and it was the need of the day and was required by the stakeholders. We have already started off with gap analysis with different sectors, and of course, like carbon border adjustment mechanism, the policy they have given, SECP has given some kind of rules and regulations. So things are moving, but having said that, government cannot do everything alone. So all the stakeholders, especially I was just talking to Dr. Khurram, and we had been discussing all the time that we need to have all the stakeholders on board, and they need to unite together, and with them we can move forward, because they need to take the ownership, like what the Bangladesh did, what the India is doing, what the China and other countries are doing. So government will play its role, and we are building the platforms, and we are integrating with the provinces. You will get the support. We are imparting everything, like we have meetings with, like World Bank is bringing up their own project. Green taxonomy is one of the policy which has been given up by the World Bank, and it is about to complete, and the draft has been shared with the major stakeholders in the industry. So things are there. Fundings, yes, they will be there, but we need to look into our own processes as well, as it was said that we need to do the things. And I think as National Compliance Center, we are open to discuss, and Dr. Khurram has already tied up a meeting with me on 24th. So I've already met PHMA, Pregnia, all the associations. Working closely would give us more benefit. That's what we can do.
That leads to probably my next question, Dr. Nabeel. Because parallel is something called cost neutral happening. Because what my textile, we are selling about all the sustainable materials, but the biggest challenge is the upcharge. So is government doing something helping the industry improve their efficiency or value use, something where? Thank you. So, how is your compliance center helping industry in that regard?
There are various projects going on already. Like Ministry of Science and Technology had a project for compliances and certifications, which was given as free for the SMEs, number one, and we are pushing it to continue for the next 5 years. We are also working on EDF-funded projects, and now we have shifted the things, and we have added, EDF is going to add HEC into it, so that more based academic projects and the research and technology transfer partnerships, they can be tabled in front of the government officials. So like we have already funded 27 million DNA traceability lab for NTU. We are working on a project for leather sector, which is a lab for, we are working on another project for biomedical center for surgical, for MDR. So there are fundings. There is a funding we are giving to the Blue Ocean, it's for shrimp exports. So projects are there, but those projects, training and funding project is coming up for accelerator, SME accelerator. SMEDA has been funded with different projects, and I had a meeting last week with them. So we're including all these training and development section into it. TVET sector has been built up. So things are there, but we need to have some kind of tangible, sustainable projects tabled, and that can only come from the industry and the academia if they can come together.
Thank you, sir. So my next question would be to Ms. Marina. Because recycling has not caught on, and we were looking at the percentages and numbers because reuse is probably first preference. How do you see this whole ecosystem developing where, because I think the regulations are also against shipping second-hand clothing.
Yeah, I think when we talk about recycling ecosystems or the establishment of circular supply chains, obviously it comes all down to waste flows and to enable these kind of waste flows. And about shipments or the flows and how to enable them, I think that is a massive barrier that we're facing right now to really enable these targets that are going to be defined. We don't know yet in which kind of percentage, for example, is going to address recycled content in products. For me, there's two different barriers. One, local regulations in the individual producing countries that actually need to enable and legislation to enable customs, export and import of waste flows. So what we see, because we work in a lot of different countries on enabling circular supply chains, a lot of policy is actually prohibiting import or export of waste. And some countries, for example, they really focus only on garment manufacturing tiers and don't have a vertically integrated setup, but in the same time they prohibit the export of waste. There is no fiber production, there is no recycling capacity within the country. Some of these countries don't even have incineration or managed landfilling, so we really do lose access to these waste flows because they can't leave the country and can also not be processed within the country. And that is a scenario that is very individual to every different producing country that is creating textile waste flows. Another very, very big challenge that we see in a lot of different countries is factories-based free zones, special economic zones, entities that are registered for export only. They have to work with the balance system, meaning whatever comes in needs to go out into export. That is also related to their waste. So it's actually, for example, I just came back from Tunisia, where exactly that is the case. 100% of the waste is leaving the country. They cannot utilize it within the country, which means no one will really invest or look into setting up recycling facilities because they would need to import the waste and not having access to local waste. So this is a failure basically in policy work in local context. That is a massive barrier to enable these waste flows that we would need locally and globally. And then secondly, the second barrier is of course international regulations. As we all know, for example, the European Union now with the Circular Economy Action Plan and the Waste Directive really defining a very new flow of waste, especially related to post-consumer waste, that might support some countries, but it also going to disrupt a lot of different waste flows to countries such as Pakistan, for example, that have a massive industry built around, for example, post-consumer waste. So here it is also important, obviously, for the individual countries to speak up and see how is this disrupting our market and how can we be part of this.
So my next question leading to the discussion would be, is there an incentive mechanism being designed for the brands and retailers around, because there's a cost of charge, right? So what is happening on the other side of the world?
Maybe can you specify the question?
Like, because textile to textile recycling is emerging as a key solution for sustainability, right? There are challenges like material cost, sorting cost, technology. What are the biggest roadblocks?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of different stakeholders involved in building a circular supply chain. And I don't think that at this point that the sorting is a big problem, because usually waste handlers know how to do their job. I also think that cost is a big challenge right now, because waste in a lot of countries still has very little value, so it's a lower cost raw material input. Definitely a barrier is what you mentioned, the technology. We need more advancement and uplifting of existing technologies and developing new recycling technologies. But yeah, massive roadblocks I think is, and it really comes down to that, I'm sorry to say, is the design in the first phase, because too many products are in the market that are not designed for recyclability. That is the truth. And if a product is made with 5% elastane and there is simply no recycling technology globally available, then this is simply a waste product, right? So this is the first barrier and the first step we need to take to create better products that are made for disassembly, for recyclability, using material compositions that can really be reutilized on a later stage, and looking into this after-use phase. When we look into factories, what we see, because we do a lot of waste management assessments in facilities, is that waste often is not managed properly. So that also includes what Nin was talking about earlier today, obviously monitoring waste streams that you have in-house, and to really evaluate the different quantities and material compositions. But it also means you need to verify where is your waste going right now. Most factories say someone is picking it up. But who's picking it up, and where is he taking it, and what is he using it for? That is extremely important, because only in this way we can get a better use case and really direct the waste for better further applications such as recycling. And if we look more into the mills in tiers 3, 4, like the fiber, yarn production, fabric production, obviously we need so much more R&D. That is time consuming, it needs allocation of labor, it needs investment, because how to introduce these recycled materials is not an easy thing. It's a lot of back and forth testing, trialing out, how much percentage, what's the quality output, what's the standard our customer is actually expecting from us to come out of this. It takes a long time. This is not an easy process. We also need to honor this, and we need to support our supply chain partners to be able to really look into this. For waste handlers and recyclers, it really is to uplift existing recycling schemes. A lot of the historically grown recycling processes are a little bit outdated, not so efficient, so they could definitely be uplifted. Waste handlers could be uplifted, for example, by establishing baling systems. A lot of them don't even have a baling machine. How do you even bring the waste in a proper sizing and situation to further usage possibilities? Or actually helping them to get a license for export, having a proper company registration and so on. So I think there's a lot of different barriers depending on the stakeholder group that we're looking into, that all needs to level up and see how they can play their crucial role in a circular supply chain.
Thank you. So my next question will be with Professor Alberto on the supply chain. So because if I give you, for the audience, I think China does more than 35% of the world textiles, and Pakistan does less than 2%. And you see this textile moving out of China and coming to this part of the world and maybe nearshoring to Mexico and other areas. So how do you see this happening?
Well, the challenge is clearly there. Sometimes I question myself, do we really need to look at China as a reference point, and I'm saying this for different reasons. First of all, in many countries, if it's not China, the first competitor is the first investor in that very country. So do we need to look at that as such a gigantic economy and economic power within our own countries? I'm talking from an Italian perspective even, where the Chinese investments are very large. But definitely talking about the reality of the moving of productions on a global scale, this is clearly happening. You mentioned Mexico, that has been the largest nearshoring or reshoring somehow destination for the US market until a couple of weeks ago. Then let's see what happens now, because apparently what the US industry has been doing in the last years is not anymore on the agenda, but I'm curious to understand. But again, also there, going back to your first point, the Salvador and Guatemala and Colombia as a destination for reshoring are actually based on Chinese investment. Nevertheless, the Mediterranean has been seeing a lot of coming back of European brands and US-based brands in searching for or re-looking for suppliers in that region. But again, moving from one place to another within the region. So there is for sure not a stability. There is a lot of supplier turnover by the brands. This is the way ahead of doing things. From the perspective of the European market, there was, I don't even know if to call it a nearshoring, going back to looking at Eastern Europe, because it was the outsourcing, for example, of the Italian fashion industry for a long time. So is it nearshoring if we plant a new facility in Romania or in another country, or what? For sure, on that scenario, on the European scale, the war between Ukraine and Russia has made a critical slowing down of this event, because for Ukraine has been a supplier of fashion products for quite a long time. So if I have to say what is actually my perception is that the other aspect is that technology is going to play a crucial role into this, and it is a way of looking at things that we will need to take into consideration in a very important manner in the near future.
So do you think technology or data analytics or maybe a smart app can help supply chain?
Well, the role of technology and has been mentioned already today, the machine learning and AI are there. We have already passed the provisions and the foreseeing of some McKinsey report that was talking about the role of AI in the fashion industry and in the supply chain and in the manufacturing, not necessarily only at the design level, that it remains the crucial step within our supply chain where AI can have a lot of things to say. And the speed at which this is evolving, it's incredible. Different, not only startups, but giant players in the IT system are working on that. Optimization of supply chains is something that machine learning systems have been doing for quite a while in different sectors. So why not to apply to a complex system like the fashion supply chain? So I would say that it's an automatic thing that will definitely need to happen. and will technology innovation will lead in certain directions. That will go towards excessive automation, increasing automation in the production, for example, or leading again to your previous question, so a certain level of nearshoring or reshoring due to the advancement of automation, for example, that reduces labor cost of the group of employees that you would need. But will that challenge something else, and will definitely challenge what you were showing in the video in the very first place? Are we challenging that system, or are we simply sitting here and waiting and see what happens next? The European legislation that everyone has mentioned already today practically will lead, or it's clear in their vision, to no fast fashion, less fast fashion, less consumption. Are we challenging that as an industry? I'm afraid that we are not yet challenging that thing. So that would be my giving to the students at the university. Think out of the box from a different perspective and challenge even the given system that is in place.
No, very rightly said, because in the last conference here, I mentioned slow fashion, and someone came to me and said, you're talking about unemployment.
Different employment.
Yeah. So my next question will be with Mr. Luca, where, because fast fashion and sustainability, they don't go hand in hand. They hate each other. So do you believe there is and I think every fast fashion brand is striving to become sustainable, because of the regulation, and as well as they would like to be seen as responsible brands. So how do you see this?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here, because Pakistan for us is a very important production hub. I represent Zaidi, which is one of the leading fashion brands in Italy. Fashion group, sorry. We have the brands Terranova, Calliope, because the name of the group is not really famous, but the brands are more famous. Thank you for inviting me, because I'm always excited when I have to explain to somebody, to the students generally, or somebody else, how the fashion world and the fast fashion can go hand by hand with sustainability. And it's very difficult to explain. We need some weeks, not some minutes. And we have lunch, so I will summarize this in four words. First of all, due diligence. The new regulation in Europe will affect the brand strategies and will bring the responsibility to the brand level for the whole impact of the whole supply chain in social and environmental impact. So we will become fully responsible for this with the new regulation. But beside the regulation, the most advanced brands already started to do the due diligence many years ago because of events, very famous events that happened in the fashion supply chain. So due diligence is the first word. The second word is harmonization. Why harmonization? Because there are plenty of brands, of fashion brands, different levels, but plenty of brands. And each brand works with a different protocol, different tool, different strategy. So suppliers may become crazy to follow every brand, on this way. So what I always share with my colleagues and the other brands is to have a uniformity, an harmonization of protocols, of processes, of tools. You can imagine only for the traceability. Traceability is the most important most important challenge for us because it's the baseline of every kind of due diligence. And I can understand the point of view of suppliers. They can't spend so many efforts in terms of time, money, and persons that have to follow dozens of tools sometimes. No? So this is the second word, harmonization. So in order to do this, in our group, for example, we join different international initiatives, no? For example, Cascade, Zaidi, and other like that. And the third word is the supplier engagement. Why supplier engagement? Starting from us, from the brand perspective, we have to educate the suppliers in order to bring them a better understanding of what we need. Because sometimes brands are not really clear. So we have to educate, to do training, to engage them in meeting, and we try to do this. Today, after this panel, I have a meeting with my local suppliers, for example. No? I think it's very important. And the suppliers must be collaborative, because sometimes suppliers are not collaborative. And must be, most important is, they have to be transparent. And this is another pillar of the due diligence, transparency. They don't have to be worried about transparency, because transparency bring clear information, clear data, clear name of factory where they produce to the brand. And then we will work together in case there are some gap to close. And the fourth word is the regulation, which are coming from the European community and which will affect the brand strategies, as I mentioned before, in all the dimensions of sustainability, in social, in environmental, in governance. So we will be affected in the eco-design, and we have to work closely with suppliers. We have to in circularity. We have seen with the SME project, with the reverse resources here, what we are doing is a great project. There are regulations on the due diligence, I already mentioned, on the reporting, on the communication, the greenwashing, on the waste. So there are dozens of regulations that will affect the brands and the fashion world, also the suppliers indirectly.
Thank you. But does that mean, because 3 billion people live between India and China, right? So does that mean that the regulation will change the way they use textiles or they produce textiles?
We did a lot of efforts in the past, not only Teddy Group, but the Teddy Group started recently, but the fashion world, the brands started many years ago to establish a new structure of the collaboration between suppliers and the brand. And nowadays, hopefully, the regulations will come in order to stabilize. Why I say that? Because with the new regulation, what hopefully we are going to do, we are going to increase, to stabilize our suppliers and produce more quality with more sustainable requirements. Sustainability is a difficult word, but we must produce better and produce less according to the consumers, because they have to buy better and buy less sometimes.
So responsible producer.
Sorry?
So responsible manufacturing.
I think if we are able to build a common strategy with suppliers, with textile suppliers, of course, and the garment manufacturers, both, in our supply chain, we can grow together, producing better, more sustainable, of course, and give to the consumers better quality. Also because if we produce with sustainable, more sustainable requirement, following more sustainable requirement, we can produce more durable garments.
So that probably leads, thank you, sir, leads to my last couple of questions with Primark. That would you be interested in selling, because at the same time, this ultra fast fashion has become a phenomenon in like 5 years maximum. So how does Primark is looking at, sell less, sell durable, sell better, sell more?
Thank you, Vijay sir. Before I answer your question, I would like to comment on the video that you showed us. And I would say that in times of great deceit, being honest is a radical act. So, the responsibility, I thought that I would be speaking on behalf of only Primark, but I guess now we are speaking on behalf of all the retailers, all the other retailers who believe in producing and selling ethically. What Primark believes is we take care of our complete the complete life cycle of the product. What we have done recently is that we have increased when I joined the company 2 years ago, we were selling all our textile products with the minimum wash standards of 15 washes. Last year we moved that to 30 washes. Now whatever we are selling in apparel, that is tested on 45 washes. So durability is something which we are committed, and this is something which we are communicating with our consumers. We also are discouraging, and I'm sure everybody else is also, they do that. They discourage mindless consumerism. And also, as you mentioned also, that we must focus on producing the products which are recyclable. Primark has the internal target to convert all their products, all their apparels, which can be 100% recyclable by 2027. So I'm sure today you were showing us the video of Shein. Next year you will be showing us the video of Temu maybe. So you see, what they do, they sell you 5 shirts, you buy 5 t-shirts from them, you use 1 or 2 of them which fit you, 3 of them are never used, and after 3 or 4 washes, everything is wasted and goes into the landfill. And they cannot be recyclable because there are multiple these fibers are used. I was looking at Temu. I did Google, and they were an Irish company registered in Ireland. But everything, if you buy from Temu, it comes from China. So it's a Chinese company. It's a Chinese company hiding their identity. So I think by educating our consumers and by increasing the durability of our products, this is how we can compete with these people. And again, I would say that consumerism, this term ultra-fast fashion needs to be stopped.
Yeah, exactly. That was the reason showing that video. It's not, because I'm also part of this community and working very closely. But at the same time, if you look at the consumer, you have a $100 billion company looking at all of us, smiling at us.
Just one more point. We recently have conducted one survey, and we got the result last week. We have spoken to more than 5,000 consumers from different stores in different regions, and most of them, they commented that they are willing to spend more, slightly more, if the products are sustainable. So if they understand the importance of sustainability, and if, you see, these regulations are okay for all of us, but for consumer, for a layman, these needs to be translated to their level for them to understand as well.
I think, my famous quote is that durability is sustainability. Also, if you look at the reason for their success is D2C, they're direct to consumer. So since you're representing all the brands now, so are you doing anything about D2C? A smart app, or because I think Primark was not online, right?
Now they are. I think everybody is, to an extent, everybody is online now, but they are selling a limited number of products online. As far as Primark is concerned, there is an app called Click and Collect. So you select all the products online, whatever you want to buy, and there is a complete catalog available. You can buy that online, and then after closing the payment page, then you can select the time also when you want to go and collect from 113 stores which are available. So this is, I think, is the first step. But again, this challenge will remain there because people are converting towards B2C.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I don't want to be in between the lunch. So to conclude, I think there is a clear path forward. There is a regulation, and everybody, all the countries, manufacturing countries, are really looking at how to convert their ecosystem, and we're still very hopeful, despite Shein and Temus of the world there. Thank you very much.
So, sir, thank you very much, and I'm so sorry I kept you waiting for 1 more hour for lunch. So I will request Mujeeb Saab to just to save time, please give sweetener to all of our guests, please. So meanwhile, I have announcements that after the lunch, we will split into 3 sessions. 1 will be here and 2 will be in MP halls, MP Hall 1 and MP Hall 2. So they are in the same building where you have taken your lunch. Also, you will be taking your lunch and tea. So MP Hall 1 is on ground floor and MP Hall 2 is on first floor. Beside this, there is a side meeting of Teddy group that will be in IT center. So some of you will be invited, so they can go at 2:30, and we will reassemble here like at 2:45. So excuse me for that. I am taking liberty from you. So see you after 35 minutes. So have a nice lunch. Thank you.